Welcome to the Writer Reads A Planet's Ransom. This is Chapter 8, Grounded. I woke to grey light and a sky hinting at colour in one corner, and wondered if the sun on this world rose in the same direction it rose on my own. That brought a sudden lump of sadness to my chest. I was probably a very long way from home. Not helpful, I told myself, but wasn't fast enough to stop the sadness from becoming a full-blown wave, or the next thought from arriving, that I was never going to see my family again. At that, I burst into tears, and the lights came on. "You are distressed?" the computer said. It made me laugh. Distressed? No, really! I'd been kidnapped, shot, and dumped on a world a long way from anyone I knew, and everything I loved. What made it think I wouldn't be distressed? "Shut up," I told it, and was relieved when its only reply was a thump and rattle in the delivery bin. That had better be more chocolate, I told it, and slid out of bed to investigate. A familiar rattle followed my words, so that when I opened the drawer, the tissue box wasn't the only thing I found. Underneath it was another small square of chocolate. I pulled them both out. "Thanks," I muttered, before sticking the chocolate in my mouth and opening the tissues. I sat back down on the edge of the bed and stared out between the trees as the day grew brighter. With dry eyes and a nose that no longer ran, I sucked on the chocolate and observed the world beyond. Finally, I asked the question that had been bothering me since I woke. "What direction is the sunrise?" "Earth equivalents may be used on this world," the computer told me. "It is another reason it was chosen." "As well as being sufficiently challenging to keep us too busy surviving to try and escape?" I asked. "Affirmative." At first I didn't know what to say, so I went with, "I need a coffee." "I cannot comply." "What do you mean, you cannot comply? You had Dramen on the ship." "Dramen can be supplied. Coffee cannot." "Well, I need a Dramen then." "Nourishment will be provided when you are dressed appropriately." I wanted to protest that there was nothing wrong with wearing pajamas on a world where there was no one to see you and you were stuck inside. But I couldn't be bothered. I pulled the spare outdoors clothes out of the drawer and headed for the bathroom. When I emerged again, breakfast was waiting, complete with one steaming cup of Dramen. I took it over to the computer terminal and set it on the desk. "Hit me with the advanced training," I ordered, digging into a hot brown paste with the texture of scrambled eggs and the flavor of something made with meat. "You need to review the additional basic tasks," the computer responded, and I sighed. Why am I not surprised? "You are not surprised because I warned you of the requirement before you went to bed." "Just show me the tasks." It did. I was pleased to see that my efforts at plant identification meant I was half done for the next 3 levels of xenobiology. Not so pleased to see that there were as many animal species waiting to be discovered. Survival had gone from a not-so-simple cooking fire task to shelter building, water finding, hunting, animal capture, and basic gardening. Just looking at those tasks explained why basic training took up a whole year, and also indicated that we, those of us who'd been dropped, really were meant to find each other. "Well, that's a relief," I said, and waited. The computer, however, remained silent, so I went into exploration. I have to admit, my heart sank at the enormity of the tasks there. Find a permanent water source and use the GGS to map it from its source to its end? Note likely areas for mineral deposits and stone and timber resources? Find clay? It had to be joking. And that's when I realized it wasn't. It never had been. Every single one of these tasks was designed to accelerate a new civilization and to help us develop our knowledge of the world we were on. "Do not be alarmed," the computer said as I took a deep breath and rested my face in my hands. "Later tasks can be completed by one on behalf of the group, and the whole group will be credited." "Group?" "Those whose communicators have been linked." I looked at the community screen, remembering how it had been locked. It was still locked when I touched it a second time. "Does this mean my communicator won't work?" I asked. "Negative," the computer said. "Then what does it mean?" "It means you must complete the advanced training so that community goals can be altered to reflect your progress." "But I didn't need to complete it before." This is almost true. Explain. I have to admit I was getting pretty sick of the way the rules kept changing. Every section of basic training can be changed to reflect the situation in which a participant finds themselves. You mean that any of these squares can be locked? Affirmative. But why? So progress is not lost, so training can be tailored appropriately. But why? The location chosen for your initial settlement can be moved according to terrain features. This alters whether you are to seek out or gather in other participants. And what? I found the thorn scorpions, so I'm to be a what? Unknown. The thorn scorpions are dangerous, but there are other factors that influence if you will seek or be the one to be found. Analysis is ongoing. Please focus on the advanced training for now. I opened my mouth to protest, but the second screen pinged, and I looked in time to see a green square spiral up. Medical. A red square spiraled up beside it. Emergencies. You are required to complete Level 3 in each of these subject areas before you will be released from the pod. All necessary equipment will be provided. To advance further than Level 3 in each of these subjects, you will need to find the appropriate caches. Caches? Caches contain advanced equipment. What kind of advanced equipment? That is not information you require. Please commence your training. I commenced. Level 1 was as easy as I expected. Basic anatomy for medical, and basic first aid for cuts, scrapes, and breaks for emergencies. Lunchtime came and went with a computer-imposed break. The screen went out when I tried to keep going against its advice. Fine, I said, frustrated at the delay, and then swore when it insisted on a light exercise routine before I ate. I was still angry when I'd finished and was able to take a tray of food from the dispenser. Observe the world, the computer ordered when I went to return to my perch in front of the screens. I thought about arguing with it and then decided it was easier to obey. Besides, I might be able to see more animals for the xenobiology task. I reached out to the shelf I'd left my GGS on and slipped it over my head. The computer said nothing as I sat at the foot of the sleeping platform and stared out through the trees. By the time I'd finished eating, I managed to record 3 or 4 bird-like creatures and a half a dozen more bugs. I'd also noted a streak of light in the distance, one that seemed to flare briefly before disappearing. What was that? I asked. Unknown. More analysis it required. Fine. You analyze while I finish Level 2. I put the plate back into the dispenser and returned to the screen. Afternoon merged into evening and then fell to the pitch dark of night before the computer interrupted me again. I was most of the way through Level 2 when it called the meal break. Fine, I said. It took me 3 more days to get through the levels I needed. I learned CPR, how to look for dangerous weather conditions, and how to find shelter. I learned how to make an area safe for first aid and how to diagnose the common cold, and then I learned the warning signs of 3 contagious diseases and how to impose quarantine. That night, the community panel opened when I touched it, and a new task appeared. Develop a suitable area for quarantining visitors. I stared at the screen and then looked around the pod. So, is this a thing now? I asked, gesturing toward the screen. We have had 1 case of tremors. Tremors? I just learnt what that was, and it wasn't nice. I felt my skin go cold, felt the world shift and then bubble back to reality. Who? The one you identify as Alicia? She is in stasis, pending the right medical equipment being available. You mean a Level 6 medbox? Affirmative. You dropped a Level 6 medbox? Negative. The box will be dropped in the next 24 hours once the report has reached the protectors. The protectors? Every world such as this has those set to watch over it. That's not in the report. You didn't tell me that. It was not expedient. What do you mean, not expedient? Don't you think it's something we need to know? It is information relevant to civilization level 25. 25? 20? You have got to be joking me. No humor is intended. At civilization level 25, you should achieve extra-planetary communication. I almost dreaded asking the next question. How long does it take to get to civilization level 25? Most have achieved it by the second generation. Second generation! 30 orbits. I was glad I was already sitting down. I stayed sitting down, staring at the screen without seeing anything on it. So why tell me now? This world is more complicated than we foresaw. You mean like the thorn scorpions and one of us having tremors? And there are other complications. Like what? They are being monitored. You will be warned when the need arises. I should be warned now. You should complete today's revision of the security quiz, the computer said, and the quiz filled the screen in front of me. Fine, but then I want some answers. Once the quiz is complete, you will have 5 minutes until lights out. Commence the quiz. I would say there was no reasoning with it when it was in this kind of mood, except it was a computer, and computers don't have moods. I forced the idea away and made myself focus on the quiz. The computer had started accepting nothing less than 100%. If I didn't focus, this could take all night. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit like. If you want to hear more, please hit subscribe. I'll check you later. Take care out there.